What's up friends, it's me Raj, and I'm back with another Raj's Reviews. Today we're going to be checking out a brand new film that dropped on Paramount Plus. So Paramount Plus is a new digital streaming platform that recently entered the market in competition with Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, Showtime, all those other apps out there. And while Paramount Plus has brought some fantastic additions to the industry and in terms of entertainment and films and shows, not all of them have been hits, as we will see today. Today we'll be checking out Infinite. So Infinite, as I mentioned before, is a brand new film that dropped on Paramount Plus. It's also out on Amazon Prime Premium and has a runtime of about an hour and 46 minutes. So Infinite is set in a world where reincarnation is a thing, and where a select few people in the world actually have the ability to recall some of their previous lives. When people die, in this world, they often get reincarnated into another body, and they can remember what happened in their previous life. And Mark Wahlberg is one of those people. In this world, there is also an item called the egg. And the egg is capable of destroying essentially the world altogether. Literally, the description of the egg is it destroys all world and matter. So Mark Wahlberg essentially teams up with this group to unlock his past skills and his past knowledge to help stop this egg and to prevent the world from being destroyed. And that is the plot of Infinite. So starting off with if it's engaging or not, this film is quite a trip. And I don't mean that in the best way. So first of all, this film is totally and completely unrealistic in any sense of the word. One, the stunts, the action is completely unrealistic. Characters who should seemingly have died completely walk out unscathed. And sometimes that's what's to be expected from an action film. So putting that aside, the science in this film is also completely unrealistic. None of it adds up. None of it really makes any sense. A lot of it seems to be just thrown in to justify specific sequences and specific events, all of which never really work out and all of which never really makes any sense whatsoever. Beyond that, the plot is unrealistic. None of what happens feels like that's how it would happen in real life, feels like that's how it would actually go down. And as such, it's really hard to connect with this film. Add to that a plot that's non-existent and extremely poorly made. This film makes for a pretty difficult watch altogether. This film is essentially just a series of insane action sequences tied together with a very loosely made plot. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about the plot, this is the best way to put it. If I was maybe 10 years old and a movie director came up to me and said, "Hey, we need to make a new movie. It's gonna have a ton of action. Give me a plot." This is probably the plot I would come up with. It is very sparse, and in addition to that, none of it really connects. None of it makes any sense. It's essentially a man trying to stop the world from complete destruction because of an egg that seemingly just destroys everything. The way I describe it to you kind of makes a little bit of sense, but somehow the movie takes that and finds a way to make it even more complicated, even more convoluted, and just removes all meaning from it. Halfway through this film, I had no idea what was going on. 3/4 of the way through the film, I didn't care a bit about what was going on. And near the end of this film, I was only interested in the tech that was in the film and the cool scenes that the film produced. But other than that, there was really no reason for me to watch this film whatsoever. Moving on to characters, the main character, Mark Wahlberg, has always been a fantastic actor. Most of the movies he works on are knocked out of the park. He's one of my favorites. Mark Wahlberg is a classic. In this film, however, I feel like he's let us down a bit. And I don't know if it's necessarily his fault. The writing for him was horrific. The acting was all right, but I think it was the best he could do under the circumstances he was given. The fact that there's no plot really lends itself to no character development. You really don't care about him or the other characters in this film whatsoever. And no matter how much they develop these characters, no matter how many scenes these characters appear in, you never really form that bond with the character that makes you care about him. It's very difficult to care about these characters, and as such, it's very difficult to care about this plot. When you go into this movie, there is one thing you should expect and one thing only, and that is pure action. One thing that was really cool about this film, I will say, is the retractable steering wheel. There's a scene in a car where an agent has the ability to essentially retract their steering wheel and it'll switch over to the passenger side so the passenger can drive. I thought that was really sick, and that was probably one of the only times in this film where I was like, whoa, that's cool. After the car disappeared, however, I lost interest again and just went back to watching seemingly pointless fights. Now I will say, they had a really cool premise. You know, I think if there was a book about this, it would be worth reading. The idea of reincarnation and the ability to remember previous lives is fascinating to me. And it should be fascinating, you know? We don't know what happens after we die, and reincarnation is a possible aspect. It's what a lot of people believe. But nevertheless, it is very interesting to think about, even if it's unrealistic. The fact that this film could butcher such an idea and could make it uninteresting is amazing to me. In that sense, that should be one of the only reasons you check out this film, just to watch how they butchered it and how they ruined such a cool premise. Altogether, definitely not worth checking out. Unless you really love cool action scenes and you have nothing else to do, you're really expecting nothing but just action and violence, I recommend checking this film out. Otherwise, it's definitely a no-go. Let me know in the comments below if you have checked out Infinite, if you liked it in any way, what you liked about it, I'd love to know. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this content, and now we'll be moving on to the Parents Guide. So Infinite is a PG-13 film. In terms of violence, I give this film a 3.5 out of 5. There is quite a bit of violence, and there's quite a bit of action in this film. About half, a little bit less than half the film is all action altogether. Some of the action does feature blood sprays and a little bit of blood and gore that can be a little bit graphic for some younger audiences, but again, it is PG-13, so it's nothing too bad. In terms of sexual content, I give this film a 1.5 out of 5. There's really no sexual content. There's a scene where a woman's changing briefly, and you can see her bare back for a second, but really it's very brief and there's no real nudity. There's also a scene with a man laying in a body bag where he's also nude because he's in a body bag. However, nothing's really seen and most of the stuff is blurred out. And finally, in terms of language, I give this film a 3 out of 5. There is one use of the F word, a few uses of the S word and D word. It's relatively infrequent, but some scenes do have it where it's very clear to see and hear that there's swearing. All in all, as I said before, I wouldn't really recommend this film for anybody altogether, but I also wouldn't recommend it for younger audiences too, specifically because there is a lot of action, a lot of violence, unless they really are looking only for violence, which younger audience shouldn't be watching films only for violence anyway, but nevertheless, if they're a little bit older and they're just looking for violence, this might be a good film for them, as there is no sexual content or not really too much strong language either. Nevertheless, I would say overall, just don't check out Infinite. It's not worth it. You know, maybe if you get very drunk or completely out of your mind and you want something that's no stress, you don't have to think about it, you could just watch chaos and action go down, this might be the perfect film. Do let me know in the comments below if you have checked it out, and if you liked it specifically, let me know what you liked about it. And until next time, I'll catch you all later.